Yesterday, where did we stop? Communalism. So I think we have done all the isms. Yes.
We have to discuss
Globalization. True.
role of
Role of
women and women's are
women. Women will deal with vulnerable sections. Tomorrow will be your vulnerable day. All vulnerable sections. Huh? Tomorrow will be a vulnerable day. I think at the end of the class you also will become vulnerable. Huh? Because I think tomorrow will start at 8 in the morning. Right? Today we will see globalization. Anything any doubts as of what we did till yesterday? No? Do you want me to repeat something? You want to get clarified something? No? Everything is fine? Globalization. Basically, we'll see different things under globalization. One is the definition or understanding of globalization. Then we'll see maybe I should not say origin, but I'll say maybe the tracing of the concept of globalization. Then, what are the factors or I'll say consequences? What is the impact? This is extremely important section. Impact of globalization. I'll not say much about these because you can expect a question or there might not be a question. But impact, certainly a question. Certainly a question. Now I think instead of origin, maybe we can deal with the status of globalization as of today. That is more relevant. Because in the era of deglobalization, in the era of transition from hyperglobalization to deglobalization, I think it's more relevant for us to see status than the origin or tracing of globalization. Now, what do you mean by globalization as such? What is the definition of globalization?
connecting with the rest of the
Connecting with the rest of the world.
as a country connecting to the rest of the world.
Any other important things?
Opening our markets to the
International this thing. Can I say it is all about interdependence?
independence of the nation.
Can I say it is all about interconnectedness? So globalization is all about interdependence and interconnectedness of a particular country with the rest of the world. Now you basically mean with the globalization, you mean that whatever political boundaries India has, they are all porous. They are all porous. That's what we mean. That's what we mean by globalization, because we have a sort of interdependence. We have a sort of interconnectedness with the rest of the world. This is what is meant by globalization. Interconnectedness and interdependence of a particular country over the rest of the world. I think one form of globalization, I think you would have read about something called as vertical integration and horizontal integration in economy. No? Were you not taught this national treatment, most favored nations, free trade agreements, preferential trade agreements, currency union, customs union, monetary union, all this?
Not always, but in some of them.
Few topics are there.
Few topics. Now when you look at this kinds of integration, it basically shows you the level of interconnectedness, the level of porousness that is present with respect to the political boundaries. Okay, when you talk about your free trade, it is basically that
Trade barrier.
the customs between or the custom duty that is imposed between both the countries mutually, it is equivalent to 0. But whatever rates they have with respect to rest of the world, that is their wish. But when you talk about customs union, not only it is a free trade agreement, but the rest of the world, whatever customs are imposed on the rest of the world are also decided mutually by both the countries. Then both the countries become part of your customs union. Okay, there are different levels of integration when you talk about economy. Okay, so it is all about interconnectedness and interdependence. Now, when you look at the status, of globalization, what is the status of globalization as such? Now, if you have to represent the trajectory of globalization across, I can simply use this graph. Now, when I saw, or when you observe across the period, at least when you take about India around 1980s, it all started in the inception stage. Then it reached a period called, this is what is called as hyper-globalization. Now, if I call this era as globalization, I'll call this as hyper-globalization. Now, this has started back. How many of you will remember hysteresis curve in your engineering? Hysteresis. First year electrical engineering. Huh? Physics also, in 12th standard physics also you study hysteresis curve. Demagnetization process. The process of globalization is very similar. Now at the inception, you basically have an exponential rise with respect to the phenomena of globalization. Now it has reached the stage of hyper-globalization because you find that there is highest degree of integration between the countries happening. Now when you have highest degree or higher degrees of integration, don't you think every sphere of life is impacted by the phenomena of globalization? Yes, your social, your political, your economic, your ethical, your cultural, your technological, your legal, all these kinds of spheres, whatever it is, they have an impact of globalization. That is in your hyperphase. Now suddenly when this impact across different spheres of globalization, it started retrieving itself. It started retrieving itself and started to take the path of deglobalization. Now when you look at the fundamental reason for the process of deglobalization to start, or the process of globalization to retrieve itself, was what? Traditional versus radical. The debate of traditional versus radical, or the debate of national versus universal. The debate of national versus universal. Now, what was Mr. Trump's argument with respect to the imposition of trade sanctions, or with respect to imposition of, or going for trade war with China? What was the main reason?
Make America great again.
Nation first policy. Simply
America first. So when you look at this path of deglobalization or the retrieving of the phenomena of globalization, you would find that the fundamental debate which is driving for such path is either traditional versus radical. And that means suddenly your classical dancers will start fighting with fusion dancers or hip hop dancers. Why? They feel an existential crisis. They feel an inherent threat with respect to this whatever kind of art form they are following. Now this kind of conflict between traditional as well as radical resulted in the retrieving path of deglobalization. Now in the similar manner, when the debate of national versus universal, now when you look at the process of globalization, you find that there was greater emphasis on international integration, there was greater emphasis on internationalism, or there was greater emphasis on universal elements. That means anything was viewed in the perspective of worldview. Now suddenly because of this worldview, what happened was the national elements felt an existential crisis. The national element felt a complexion of inferiority. Now in order to get over this complex of inferiority, they started the debate of national elements. So the debate of national versus universal and traditional versus radical, it became, it has led into the path of deglobalization. Now there are number of articles or there are number of debates going on around whether the process of deglobalization, is it real or is it just a myth? What do you people say? Is it a myth or is it real?
On some areas it's true and in some areas it's
Mm-hmm. How?
like when coming to climatic consensus.
Okay.
So all are on the same global forum.
Mm.
When coming to inclusion of trade, like certain industries.
Economic sphere.
So they are closing their economy.
Okay.
To certain extent.
Is deglobalization relevant? Yes.
To some extent, yes.
Can we oppose the process of globalization? Not completely.
Shouldn't be the case. I think it shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't be the case. Okay. Basically, when you look at the process of globalization, don't you think it was a resultant of something called as theory of comparative advantage? Don't you think the process of globalization was a resultant of theory of comparative advantage? For example, a country like India, it will have some advantage. For example, the advantage of country like India is summarized as 4 Ds. Demographic, yes, demographic dividend, demand, democracy, and what is the one more D which Modi ji? Development. I don't remember one more D, but he talks about 4 Ds as the advantage. Now, when you look at China, they have a comparative advantage of manufacturing sector. They are considered as the factories of the world. Now, in order to share this theory of comparative advantage or in order to leverage on this theory of comparative advantage, what happens is China is going to push all its goods into India because we are having market. We are having market, we are having demand, we are having demography. Now, because of our presence of demography or demographic dividend, don't we think we are going to push our workers to China to some extent? The theory of comparative advantage, the advantage we have is market. The advantage China has is its production sector. So, till the world believes in the concept of this theory of comparative advantage, I don't think your deglobalization process is relevant. Or you can safely conclude that your deglobalization process is a myth. Because when you look at deglobalization, it is not that whole of the phenomena of globalization is being reversed. Now, say for example, you have opened your borders. You have exchanged number of elements in different spheres. With respect to economy, you have got in FDIs, for example. Now, with respect to culture, you have got in different cultural admixture or cultural fusions. Now, say I have undertaken this path of deglobalization. Can I send back all my cultural elements? One fine morning, say, Government of India is going to impose, say, ban on pop music in India. Will we stop hearing pop music? Can we send back pop music elements or pop music as an entertainment from India to US wherever it has originated? No. When we are not able to send back or when we are not able to get away from the things of what we have got in globalization, do you think the process of deglobalization is relevant? No. The process of deglobalization is relevant only to certain spheres. And in that case, if it is relevant only to certain spheres, we cannot call it as deglobalization, but we'll call it as globalization at a lower degree or at a limited scale. Is this clear? Is this clear? Because a question on deglobalization is still pending. It is also has been expected from past 2-3 years post 2018 US-China trade war. Although there was a direct question on trade war, but deglobalization as a phenomenon is yet to be asked.
So again, what's theory of comparative advantage?
Theory of comparative advantage is one region is having a particular advantage when compared to other region. Now, because of these advantages or different advantages each region is having, they need an element of reciprocity. They need an element of interconnectedness. They need an element of interdependence. They need an element of cooperation. Now, all these elements of cooperation, interdependence, this integration is manifested in the form of globalization. Is this clear? Now, one of the criticism for the process of deglobalization is the world would be devoid of this theory of comparative advantage. Now, although you might think that nations first or America first, but at the end of the day, it is very certain that you are supposed to depend on theory of comparative advantage. Is this clear? So, basically, this is the basic status of globalization or basic understanding of globalization.
Sir, rather than deglobalization, can you say that the world is now going?
Yes, you can safely say. You can safely say. Regional integration, maybe you can say it is interest-based grouping, but that is also a form of globalization only. Although it is a regional integration, but it is a limited form of globalization, because in a globalization you are open to the rest of the world. But in your regional integration, basically you are restricting yourself to certain regions with choice. Is this clear? Now, what about the origin if you want to trace back?
Sir, also like regarding this one, can you say multipolar dimensions also?
Huh?
Groupings in the sense when we're talking about regional groupings, so even within the countries also they are forming groupings like interest-based.
Interest-based, yes. Interest-based engagements. That is anyway there. That's why we are talking about limited globalization. I'll not say deglobalization, but limited globalization. Okay, now what is the origin of globalization as such? Industrial revolution, okay.
Prior to that, colonization.
Colonization, fine.
Industrial revolution, like for the resources, to exploit resources, colonization. Because of industrial revolution, to get the resources, as the countries which have started industrial revolution, they are devoid of the resources.
Colonialism was prior to industrial revolution.
Sir, but on a large scale, actually, like in 1700s, in history book, they are given like when industrialization has taken place, there was a crunch of resources. As these Asian countries are rich in resources, they have come given which are
Actually, it was other way around. When they started exploiting, and parallelly this phenomenon of industrial revolution started to happen. And because of this, such a steep growth of industrial revolution, the greed for resources has increased, and which later manifested in the form of imperialism, colonialism, all this. Okay.
Which century did industrial revolution take place?
16th, 17th century. 16th, 17th.
Renaissance?
Renaissance was 14th, 15th century. From the era of darkness, 14th, 15th century. Greek philosophers. What is the origin of globalization? Can you trace globalization to ancient times? Your Mesopotamian trade, your IVC trade, Sumatran trade, all this was a kind of globalization, your Silk Route. Yes? Okay. Now, with respect to India, it became more voracious here post 1980s. Post 1980s. Because when you look at India till your 6th 5-year plan, we were more an inward oriented economy. or we basically dependent on the import substitution method of production, right? Now tell me, what are the factors for globalization? Factors for globalization.
It's led to the problem.
Factors for globalization.
No competency within the industries of the nation, particular nation.
No?
Quality, like
To satisfy the needs of the people. I guess that involves it.
The need or demand for man, money, material. Your human resources, your economic resources, and your physical resources. Man, money, material, which basically resulted or acted as a feature for your or factor for your globalization. Then second, we have seen the theory of comparative advantage. Second, the theory of comparative advantage. Third, what is a factor? The liberalization. Yes, your liberalization is also a factor for your globalization. What is the doubt?
Sir, isn't it the other way around?
No. I was expecting this question anyways.
I mean, countries like Saudi and all are still not very liberal, yet they are globally present.
See, liberalization, maybe you can restrict it to economic sphere. They have a liberal trade, but they don't have a liberal attitude or considerations. Now, as an impact of globalization, they are becoming little more liberal these days, especially with respect to the women rights. In the Middle East, they are becoming little more liberal.
Exactly my point.
I mean, that is maybe a social connotation, you can say. But when you look at the economic connotation, it is mostly the concepts of liberalization which have led to deeper globalizations. Any other factor with respect to your globalization? Urbanization, industrialization, westernization, and modernization. Now, when you look at modernization, basically it has led to a greater degree of ideological connect. Because the ideological connect as a resultant of modernization was mostly centered around the theory of freedom, the theory of rights, the theory of choice, the theory of expression, the theory of liberty. Now, when they had such kinds of ideological connect, don't you think the immediate consequence of such an ideological connect is globalization? Yes. So, these are certain factors of globalization. Now, next, consequences. Or impacts. Now, as part of your impacts, you are basically supposed to see your economic impact, your political impact, then your technological impact, then your cultural impact, plus social impact. Now, this is a matter of your international economics, your balance of payments, your current account, capital account, your CAD, your trade deficit, all this. It's with respect to your economy, your FDI, FPI, trade openness, degree of trade penetrations, all this, or terms of trade. Now, when you look at your political, it is mostly with respect to your international relations. It is mostly with respect to your international relations. Now when you look at your technological, this again has an economic impact. But our focus of study with respect to your GS1 will be this aspect. This aspect, your cultural as well as social impacts of globalization. Now every year at least there is one question on globalization. And every year the question on globalization is mostly centered around the impact on culture. Either globalization as a positive phenomena or the consequences of globalization which has promoted global culture, is it able to fit into your local cultures of India, or your local cultures are being defeated by the global cultures that are consequence of your globalization. So basically your UPSC keeps on testing this particular understanding whether your global culture is greater than your local culture or your local culture is greater than your global culture. Now this fundamental debate of global culture versus local culture basically is a consequence of globalization. And this is nothing but the impact of globalization on the culture and social. So when you look at this impact, the cultural or social impact. Now first let's look at the social impact. Social impact. What did I say? Whenever you are evaluating social, what happened to family with globalization? More nuclearization, more single parent child or more single parent families. Yes, kinship relations, increased divorce rates, increased debate over individualism. All these are consequences of globalization. So when you talk about your family, first it is disintegration of joint family or nuclearization of families. First is disintegration of joint family, nuclearization of families. Then single parent culture or promotion of individualism or promotion of individualism. Now what happened to kinship? Kinship, the first thing you are supposed to see is there is homogenization of kinship terms. Homogenization of kinship terms. Now previously we used to call our babai, babai, atta, atta, or mama, mama. Now everybody is uncle, everybody is aunt. Yes? That is what is meant by homogenization of kinship terms. Okay, that is with respect to your kinship. Then what happened to your marriage? Intercaste, live-in relationships. Yes. Then interfaith marriages. Yes. Then increased divorce rate.
So are we discussing them as impacts or negative impacts or
Impacts.
I mean, you've clubbed intercaste marriage and divorce rates.
Yeah, we are just neutral with respect to its debate. Divorce kuda manchida.
Like when sir, not in bad way, like if at all the people can't live together, so they dissociate, sir. That is a basic one.
Don't utter this
Sir,
outside.
offending the human rights. Sir, we are offending human rights. So
That's okay. That's okay.
As a poor, we need to offend the human rights. Individual rights are
This is the problem with UPSC preparation. We get too liberal with our attitudes. Huh? Just kidding apart, fine. So, increased divorce rates. Now, can I say generalistically that the relevance of marriage as an institution has declined? The relevance of marriage as an social institution, it has declined. Because you find that there is prevalence of live-in relationship. There is prevalence of increased divorce rates. There is prevalence of intercaste, interfaith. Although they are intercaste and interfaith, they are seen in a positive connotation, or they are seen as a positive externality with respect to diminishing or declining caste system in India. But when you look at your live-in or increasing divorce rates, it is basically a negative externality or a negative consequence of your globalization. Right? Now what happened to the, okay, this is I think more than sufficient with respect to your social aspects. Now let's get into cultural aspects. Now when you talk about your cultural aspects, now one element which constantly UPSC keeps testing is what is the impact on rural culture. One impact which UPSC keeps testing is the impact of globalization on rural cultures. Tell me, what is the impact of globalization on rural cultures?
Cultural subjugation.
Cultural subjugations, then peri-urbanization, then attire, fine. Can I say the process of universalization and the process of parochialization are prevalent? Your local cultures are getting promoted into global cultures. Your global cultures are penetrating into local cultures. So the concept of universalization and parochialization is more prevalent with respect to your rural cultures. Yes. Now can I say disintegration of traditional elements? Disintegration of traditional elements. Now for example, your dhoti is being replaced by your jeans. A classic example. Or your normal trousers. When you look at normal farmer attire, it is mostly your dhoti. But when you look at the impact of globalization, it is mostly the trousers or your jeans, right? Disintegration of traditional elements. Enhanced diversity with respect to cultures. Enhanced diversity with respect to cultures. For example, cuisines, food, food, dressings. Can I say another impact of globalization on rural cultures as commodification of culture? Can I say so?
How, sir?
Commodification of culture.
Doesn't that come under UNP?
Which one?
Universalization.
This is more specific. Now when we are talking about universalization and parochialization, it is more of the cultural practices. Now when we talk about commodification of culture, it is seen the economic value of culture is being realized. For example, your global markets for your traditional artisan crafts, or for your tribal art, for your rural paintings. You have an increased market, enhanced market, which would basically result in commodification of your cultures. Right? Now, is commodification of culture a positive impact or negative impact? It's a positive impact. It's a positive impact. Right? Now, apart from diversity in cultures, can I say diversity in occupation also? Diversity in occupation also? Yes or no? So this is with respect to rural cultures. Now if
How about diversity in occupation relevant in rural areas?
for
How is globalization affecting rural occupations in rural areas?
now there is a survey which states that 78% of the farmer children want to leave farming as an occupation. Now when you look at the rural India, the major occupation is here farming or agriculture. Now when you look at 78% of the youth or your next generation is saying we don't want to do farming, don't you think it is a basic kind of inherent threat to the farming as a system or an economic activity?
But not mainly due to the globalization.
Majorly because of globalization.
Like it's agriculture itself is not so
No.
lucrative in the country.
No. Agri distress is not at all a reason for that. That is basically a misconception. Basically, what happens is when you have the globalization as a phenomena, with globalization, we said the ideas of modernity, the ideas of westernization, the ideas of liberty, the ideas of freedom, the ideas of choice are prevalent and penetrated. Now, with such these things, what happens to the aspirations of the individuals? They're going to increase. Certainly. Your Maslow's theory of needs. The process of self-actualization. Now, the process of self-actualization becomes very relevant and very important in the context of globalization because increased aspirations. Right? So, this is all about the impact of globalization on rural cultures. Okay. Now tell me, what is the impact on tribal cultures? This is one more area where UPSC generally asks a question. One is impact on rural cultures. The other one is impact on tribal cultures.
Exploitation of forest.
Exploitation of
To tribal practices.
impact on tribal cultures. Divide it into positive and negative. Tell me positive impacts on tribal culture.
They get connected with the
Employment.
Basically, universalization. Universalization. Then
opportunities.
better economic opportunities or something called as commodification of culture. Then getting into mainstreaming of tribal. Okay. Mainstreaming of tribal cultures, which is nothing but something similar to your universalization. Now, when you talk about the negatives, the first one is cultural subjugations. Cultural subjugations, then exploitation. Exploitation, then reduced diversity or cultural extinctions. Cultural extinctions. Why cultural extinctions? Now, for example, if you talk about the tribal languages, most of them are in endangered list. So the consequence or the cause of such degeneration of tribal cultures in the form of tribal languages is because of globalization. Right? Exploitations, decreased diversity or cultural extinctions, occupational threats. Because when you look at the tribes as a society, they have an inherent linkage, or their way of life is a forest. Now with the impact of globalization, what is happening to the forest? Basically a kind of encroachment, basically an increase with respect to the tribal and non-tribal context. Now the other day when we were discussing in internal security, we have seen the fundamental reason behind the issues of tribals is basically because of non-tribal contacts. Now non-tribal contacts manifesting in the form of your money lending, your prostitution, diseases, or different kinds of bonded labor, land alienation. Now all these issues is non-tribal contacts. Now with the era of globalization, don't you think this intensity of contact between tribal and non-tribal is going to go up? Now when this contact or degree of contact between your tribal and non-tribal is going to go up, you will have more of negative consequences. Okay. Now this is with respect to your tribal cultures. Right? Now tell me what will happen to the general culture as such because of globalization? General cultures. I'll give you few keywords, please remember. Hyper-localization, glocalization, McDonaldization, okay, and homogenization. See, whenever you are dealing with respect to the impact of globalization on culture, basically you are supposed to use these terms. Your hyper-localization, your glocalization, McDonaldization, and homogenization. Now when you look at the impact of globalization on culture, you can talk about impact of globalization on dress, on cuisines. Then you can talk on the music, dance, painting. Then you can talk on festivals. Any other cultural things? Architecture. Your literature. Language or literature. So basically all of this, your dress, your cuisine, your music, your dance, your painting, festivals, architecture and literature, all this form part of your culture.
Approaches like earlier we were following old traditional pathshalas. Now we are having modern day schools.
Education, that we'll see as part of social systems. So if you want to evaluate the impact of globalization on culture, you can use all of these elements and give one example for each. Give one example for each. And when we look at the general trends of culture or the impact of globalization on culture, it is mostly composite in nature. It is mostly composite in nature. Now when you look at on dance, it became more modern. When you look at dress, it became more modern. Previously we had dhoti, now it is jeans. For cuisines, we had certain traditional elements. Now it became foreign in nature, Italian, continental, all this. Now music, we had Carnatic, Hindustani. Now it's fusion, pop. Now for dance it is hip hop. We had classical dances. Now it is hip hop, salsa. Right? Now when you talk about paintings, it became more of modern, contemporary. Where? Who was that painter? Who left India? Who left India?
MF Hussain.
Huh? M.F. Hussain. M.F. Hussain. M.F. Hussain. Basically, the example of M.F. Hussain leaving India was a classic example with respect to the levels of freedom in India or freedom of expression. Freedom of expression. Now, what about festivals? Your Valentine Day became a festival now? Yes. In fact, more than Dasara. Yes. Because there will be a lot of demand for your roses, chocolates, teddies. Then architecture became more modern in nature, right? Then literature as part of literature or language, your English became a global language. It has become a medium of communication even in the corners of India, right? So if you have to evaluate the impact of globalization on culture, go for all these elements. Now when you are writing an answer all these elements, you basically give the trend in one line and give an example. And intersperse them with these words, these keywords. Composite culture, hyper-localization, glocalization. Glocalization basically means what? The global element becoming local is what is meant by glocalization. Now when you talk about McDonaldization, for example, your McD serving a vegetarian thali during your Dasara or Navratri. Those 9 days, they basically maintain vegetarian things. Why? Why does your McD has something to do with your vegetarian thalis during Navratra? It is what is called as McDonaldization. Homogenization. Homogenization basically means we have seen that the diversity of the India or the Indian cultures are being kept or are being swiped off with one global culture. You are basically homogenizing the diversity of different cultures that are present in India. Now based on this, tell me what is the debate with respect to your global culture? Is global culture greater than your local culture or local culture greater than your global culture? Tell me, you tell me. You tell me.
I think in some situations like when coming to stand of living, it's bad.
No, I'm not asking you whether it's bad or good.
In some cases,
Tell me an elements where your global culture is greater than your local culture, where your local culture is greater than your global culture.
Culture is greater than global culture because in local culture they give values to the relations.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
In terms of apparel or dietary habits, I believe local culture will be better because it's suited for that kind of environment
Okay.
related to the global.
Okay.
So, I mean, if I'm living in this kind of place, rather than a McD burger, maybe I should be eating something else.
Dal chawal. Yes.
dress also. Maybe
Okay.
India was very white dress. Now different colors.
Now I think in last year's question, it was a question on this. I think I had taken a stand of local cultures being greater than greater cultures or global cultures.
Aren't we parents?
We'll give a critical examination. We are supposed to give a critical examination, but my conclusion was, I concluded with soft power. When the culture of India has become a tool of diplomacy, don't you think the inherent strength of Indian culture lies there? Yes or no? When it can make or break a relation with a foreign country, or when it can make yoga as an international event, don't you think we have an inherent local cultural strength? Yes. I had debated with respect to both, where there are instances where global culture is greater than local culture, with respect to your homogenization, with respect to Uberization of culture, with respect to Coca-Colaization of culture. You find a Coca-Cola even in your villages, you find in forests, you find in tribal areas. Don't you think that kind of cultural penetrations as an impact of globalization shows the strength of global culture over your local cultures? I'm just giving you a classic example. And there are instances where your local culture is greater than global culture. For example, McDonaldization or McD following a veg thali during your Navratra days. Or for instance, your globalization phenomena. Whatever global elements are there, we make it convenient for ourselves or our culture and will incorporate it. Or the phenomena of hybrid cultures or the phenomena of composite cultures. This was a debate. And I concluded saying that local culture was greater than global culture, because of its ancient linkage, because of its utilization as a tool of diplomacy. And one such example I had given was International Day on Yoga.
So when we talk about global culture, is it confined only on particular religion or one like entire culture except India?
Huh. Be it your Europe, be it your North America, any culture. Basically, you are supposed to see the global culture in such a way that the impact of global culture on local culture. It is not that they are being practicing there or they are being practiced there and we leave it. It is not like that. What is that kind of practice of global culture that is impacting the local culture? Are these elements clear? Yes. See, at max, if they are asking question on globalization, there can be only 4 elements. First, a general impact of globalization. Now, because when you look at positive aspects, it is greatly promoting the idea or ideology of freedom, your freedom of expression, your rights, or global oneness, or the concepts of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Yes or no? Now, but when you talk about the negative aspects of globalization, now with the greater degree of penetration of the idea of liberty, freedom, choice, don't you think it is resulting a phenomenon of individualism being in the society? Now, when you have greater emphasis on individualism, what happens to the social relations and social connect or social capital that is supposed to be prevalent in the society? It is going to take a hit. So, bring this element also when you are talking about the impact of globalization on Indian society. They can ask you impact of globalization on rural cultures, one aspect. They can ask you impact of globalization on tribal cultures. Or they can ask you impact of globalization on general cultural aspect of India. At max, these 5 combinations can be asked.
So when we talk about globalization, not in terms of society, but in terms of economy. So at that time when globalization was introduced in India, most of the Indians were mostly agrarian society.
Yes.
So can we say like what's the stand, like is it a positive thing or negative thing?
When you talk about the impact of or the economic impact of globalization on rural India, it is a negative impact, because it has enhanced or it has crept in or it has created a phenomenon called as rural inequalities. Now, till then there was no phenomenon of rural inequality. Till then there was only a phenomenon of inequality between your urban areas or rural areas, or there was a prevalent phenomenon of rural and urban divide. But when you look post globalization year 1991, 1995, it is not only a rural urban divide, but there has been a divide or there is a form of inequality that is existing within your rural areas also. Right? So when it comes to the connotation or the economic impact of globalization on rural areas, it is a negative impact. Yes?
So then what is the impact of hegemony, like US hegemony on this globalization?
I didn't get you.
Globalization led by US. Most of the things were led by US and European countries. So it was mainly propagating those ideas of Westernity, they were bidding the US hegemony on the other countries.
Okay.
So what can we say regarding that? When you are taking the stand of, you took the stand of local cultures are greater than the global cultures. So in the same sense, can we say how was the US hegemony crept into our society?
See, when you talk about the role of US in the phenomenon of globalization, certainly it was very strong post year disintegration of USSR. First thing. The second thing you're supposed to remember is, although we had an impact of globalization which is US driven mostly to certain extent in your later 19th century and later 20th or early 21st centuries, but when the world started maturing itself, this concept started to drift away from US. Now that is the reason why when during the phase of hyper-globalization, now it suddenly started treading back, because the concept of globalization as such was not accepted by your US. And it started drifting away from US. When it started drifting away from US, you basically found a change in the trends of globalization in the form of retreating nature. This is point number 2. Point number 3 that you are supposed to remember is, now when it comes to the impact of globalization on Indian culture, when we look at Indian culture, we have certain very strong cultural preservations, or the culture of the cultural preservation. For example, your constitutional provisions. What is your Article 49? What is your Article 49? It talks about monumental preservations. What is your Article 51 Clause A? It talks about non-destruction of public property. Your monuments are to be, or your culture. Yes? Or there are number of institutional setup, for example, your Ministry of Culture, your Archaeological Survey. Yes? Now when you have such cultural setups, or when you have such institutional setup, when you have that constitutional mandates, or when you have that constitutional principles of framework of preservation of culture, now it is very difficult for India to drift away from or get impacted by these cultures. That is the reason why I have taken local cultures are certainly greater than global cultures. Right? So this is all about globalization. Right? So we have seen the concept of globalization. Now I think we are left with demography as part of your first paper. Anyway, women will deal in your marginal sections, which will be tomorrow's topic. Right?
Impact of poverty on Indian society. Poverty on Indian society.
Poverty also will deal, maybe in later half today. Now we'll try to complete demography. Okay. Do you want me to give you a break and start? Yes? So we'll give a 10-minute break, so that we'll take up demography and finish it. Then again we'll take a 10-minute break. Then we'll finish poverty also. Okay? We'll discuss.